We have a very special guest, Brian. If you want to introduce yourself, we didn't give an intro. Also, start with your socials so that way we know where to
Okay,
find you.
absolutely. My name is Brian Montez. I go by the artist name Yams World, and you can find all my artwork and videos and all that fun stuff at yams.world on every social media platform. My biggest following right now is probably Instagram, but I'm trying to grow my YouTube as well
Yeah.
and my TikTok before it gets banned. So hopefully
Before
doesn't.
it gets
I
banned
know.
is so real. Oh my
Um,
God.
But outside of that, I am a freelance illustrator and artist based in Denver, Colorado. I primarily help queer-owned, women-owned, and POC-owned organizations across the United States with all kinds of different amazing work. Most of that is illustration work for campaigns, custom merchandise, event posters, things like that. And then I also get to sell all my personal artwork on art as art prints, apparel, pins, stickers, all that fun stuff, and I sell that online and all across the U.S. as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, so I've known Brian. We've known each other since college, which now that I think about it has been a long
Yeah.
time. I graduated in December of 2018. So it's been
Yeah.
a long
It's been
time.
a while.
And I've seen, like I said, your evolution of your work and you as an artist. So,
Thank you. Yeah, our college journeys kind of intersected for a little bit. You
yeah.
graduated a year or two before me because I graduated spring 2019.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, no, so I just a semester
Yeah, there you go.
before you,
Yeah,
yeah.
so just a semester. And then I don't know if you've talked about this on your podcast before, but Britt and I and some other folks also started the first ever like undocumented club
Yeah,
slash
yes.
group at Colorado State University too. So that was a big part of how we came together as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So we both went to CSU, and yeah, we were part of a student org that we kind of created from the ground up
Hmm.
for undocumented students. We both are undocumented individuals. Well, you have DACA, right?
I have DACA.
Okay, I have
Yeah.
DACA too. So, and at that time, there were very few of us
Hmm.
at US or UNC at CSU that were undocumented or that had DACA. So we just wanted to create a community where we kind of were able to help each other figure out the whole college.
Yeah. I think a lot of it came down to just being in a place where other people that kind of knew our situation were going to be. Because I think a big part of that, and also, I don't know if is it okay to, talk about that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just
No, we can
just
talk
making
about
sure.
anything.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But a big part of being undocumented is, unfortunately, it can be really isolating.
Yes.
In my experience and probably other people's
Yeah.
experiences. And creating a undocumented group was kind of just at the very bare minimum a place where we could all come together and share our experiences.
Yeah.
I kind of always say that I kind of came out twice because I also identify as a gay man, and so I had to come out as undocumented, and I also had to come out as gay
Yeah,
too.
yes.
And so a lot of that coming out feels so much easier when you're around other people who know kind of what you're going through, and then it gets all into the weeds of if you have DACA, if you don't have DACA,
Yeah.
if you're a different status like a refugee status or TPS, things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So that was probably one of, I think, if not my biggest achievement outside of graduating.
Yeah, of
think.
course, which is also huge,
Yeah,
especially
it's
for
huge.
people like us who weren't even supposed to make
Right.
it to college, right?
Right. On top of that, we started this. I hate to call it a club, an organization.
Yeah, yeah.
That is still growing strong.
Yeah.
Greatly. Right. That's a great achievement, and it's unfortunate that that still has to be a thing. But yeah, I don't know if you know this, but it's growing strong now.
Still, really?
Yeah, it's called UDU, so it's undocumented something. But I go to their meetings like at least once.
I
Well,
love
I
that.
zoom into their meetings once a month, and I don't know if you know this, but they're finally doing an undocumented resource center at CSU.
What?
Yeah,
Oh my God, that makes me. I could literally cry right now because that makes me so
Yeah.
happy. The reason I wanted to start this student org, I remember I was in Avid in high school, and I told my Avid um, teacher that I wanted to start the org because I knew that there was only like 100
Yeah.
students that were undocumented at the time when we started the org, and I just was like, there's only 100 of us, and it's such a unique experience to us, and navigating like financial aid, well, wouldn't the lack thereof, and scholarships and all of that stuff, because when I was applying to colleges, I didn't realize how different of an experience it was to be undocumented and want to go to college. I didn't realize the amount of obstacles, not being able to do like have FAFSA and to apply to scholarships, to receive any kind of financial aid, to apply for loans. Like all of that was just not an option. And I'm telling you, I was in Avid and everyone else was documented and I was the only one, so I was kind of navigating alone, and I was like, I don't want to go into this school and feel so alone. Like I know there's other people that feel the same way. And a strong motivator too was that this was around like the 2016 when they made that damn wall. Like it just kind of that's what really ignited it. So it makes me so, oh my God, that just makes my heart so happy to know that it's still going strong.
I actually got commissioned last month to create a mural for the new space that they're going to do. So, yeah. It's all like
just
so full circle.
Yes, it makes my heart so happy.
Yeah, me
my
too.
God.
I'll tell you later where it is. That's the one thing I go back and forth on. It is really far away from the main campus, but I'll take any space.
Yeah.
And supposedly the new president has been really receptive. Like she was the one who was like, give them like their own.
That's awesome.
Space.
Yeah,
So,
and because it's needed. It's definitely needed.
Absolutely. And the other thing is like undocumented people are not just from Latin America. They're not just from Mexico. They're from everywhere. So it's really hard to put an undocumented space in the like Latinx community center or like the Black community center, right? It's not, we're from all over the place.
Yeah.
So fun updates,
oh my God, that's awesome. I love that you still keep up. I see that you still do a lot of work with CSU as well.
Yes, I do. I've been commissioned. This is going to be my 6th commission from Colorado State University to create something. I've done all things from stickers to custom shirts to event posters, awards too. That was really fun. I got to do, so it's a special custom piece that is that they framed for the El Centro Awards that they do at the end of, like for the graduating class. So I got to do that, and I think that was my funnest one. I got to do a design for First Generation Day.
I did see that too.
And
my God, you're just
on top of that, they invite me to come vend all the time. I'm actually going on Saturday to vend at the LSC for their gender and queer conference. So, and it's always a really, really great turnout because I think the connection that I was a student there, and now I have my own business, and I think I make at least $1,500 every time I go out.
That's awesome.
In like a 2-hour span.
Wow, so, good for you, friend. That makes me so excited for you.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so let's take it back because I think back when we were in college, you were just kind of starting out with doing graphic design, correct? Like, what did you go to school for?
Yeah, so I actually went to school. So, I mean, let me go way back.
Yeah.
I have a similar situation with you where I was, I was doing everything in high school to be able to get scholarships, and then I wasn't able to get as many scholarships as I thought because of my undocumented status. On top of that, I actually only applied to the Ivy League schools because, I thought it was mero, all these things. But at the same time, I guess society was telling me that if I had all these merits and accomplishments, I would be able to go somewhere cool and special and like really prestigious. So I applied to Yale, Dartmouth, Harvard. I got a Harvard interview, I got a Dartmouth interview, and I got a Princeton interview. And then after that, I got rejected from all of them except Dartmouth. I got put on the wait list.
Okay.
So I got into this like pretty dark depression when it came to my college journey. And then even the University of Denver, which is just down the street from my house, like somewhere I've like can see every single day of my life, put me as a international student because of my status.
Yeah.
And so that would hurt the most, I feel like, because Harvard's
Yeah, like
1,000 miles away,
whatever.
right?
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
But that one really hurt, and I kind of fell into this depression. Then my mom, of all things, which is kind of interesting, like, it's special for an immigrant mom, right, to be like, let's go to CSU, let's sign up for this visit day, and let's go. I think it'll cheer you up. Like, I think you need to see a campus. And so we went, and I had a financial aid meeting with this counselor named Sylvia Martinez, which I'm sure that you are familiar with. And she was a really special person in my college career because she was the first person that told me I could go to college. Not only go to college, but pretty much have it paid for all 4 years of my career. And that's what happened. I ended up getting a full ride to CSU and had a ton of scholarship money left over as well. And I started as a political science major. That was kind of my interest. But I quickly realized that's not what I kind of wanted to do. Yeah. So I switched over to business because that felt like the most.
Okay. Yeah, I think I remember business.
Overall, like major that I would able to be doing something after, no matter what. And then I kind of concentrated in finance, and so finance is stocks, bonds, financial planning, things like that. Because I thought, well, money, right? That's gonna get you some big money, and my parents agreed too. And I think too late in my college career, I realized that I was not doing what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I think that's a pretty common experience amongst kids of immigrants or, immigrant families is that our families want us to go to college, to have a good life, and a good life means...
make it worth it. Like, yes, you have to do, become a doctor, lawyer, something that's,
and
for that's going to make you money.
Yeah, and for a lot of, Mexican families, Latino families, it's engineering. Most. You're like, oh, he's
or business.
And so finance, I thought, was the way forward. At the same time, I was doing graphic design for my fraternities, for my extracurricular activities, for the undocumented group.
I remember you did a sign for us.
Yeah, exactly. And so I kind of use that as kind of my escape out of reality and kind of a tool for, mental health, just to get my creativity out, because all my life from elementary school, I had been creative. Okay. I loved being creative.
So it was something that you were actually into since you were young.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a lifelong creative. That's what I say. I love that. I don't have a creative career. I am a career creative. That's what I say. Yeah. Okay. And there's a difference, I love that. But we can get into that later. So my junior year, I fell into a pretty dark depression again, right? How these things happen, because I was failing my international finance course. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever taken in my life. And I was an A student up to that point, right? I got a C my freshman year, and I cried. And I was like, I'm not going to make it. All these things.
I'm failing at life. Yeah. Life is over.
Exactly. So you could imagine what an F felt like in that class. Yeah. And so quickly I realized this isn't it. So I withdrew from that class, switched my major I basically just dropped my finance major. So I just became a marketing major. So marketing concentration with a business degree. And then I was kind of having a moment in my college home all alone. And I kind of told myself I cannot be doing this just for someone else, and that someone else was my parents, right? Because I think a lot of the times we think that if we don't honor our parents' sacrifices, that we're just bad kids, we're bad people.
That they failed, we failed.
They failed, we failed, because it does take a lot of sacrifice to come to this country, make it all these years, put a kid in college, right? And so I kind of felt like I was not honoring that, but I had to realize that. And I say this all the time, in order to honor them, I had to honor myself. Yeah. And so I told myself, no matter what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, it has to be creative. Yes. I don't care what I'm doing. It just has to be creative. And I knew that I loved graphic design. So let's just start there. Yeah. So I quit my job at the Office of Financial Aid. Yes. So I was working under Sylvia at that time. And I told her, boss, I can't do this anymore. And funny enough, they were looking for a graphic designer in the College of Business. And so I was like, why not? Let's apply, right? And I ended up getting it. And that was kind of my first time where I was being paid to be creative because they needed the help. They needed creative help. And I was pretty good at that time too, because not a lot of people had a grasp on the programs and like what I needed to do. I was so good that when I graduated, they were begging me to work for the College of Business full time
Okay, wow.
as the like a graphic designer, and I just didn't want to. I didn't want to be in academia because I just knew that the creativity portion of that would only be limited to
Yes.
the colors of the university and the palette of the university. So, yes, so I got a degree in business with a marketing concentration. And I think that in hindsight, that was probably the best thing I could do because I'm 100% self-taught in graphic design and illustration. And that means I spent, tons of time on YouTube, just doing it myself, absorbing all the free content that I could get to do this and doing a lot of practice as well. The last semester of my senior year, I had so much scholarship money left over that I had to use it. Like, you had to use it or it's gone, right?
Yeah,
You're not going to get just that left because I already paid for everything, my rent and stuff. And so my advisor was like, do you need a new laptop? Like, get a new laptop because at least there you could spend that money a little bit. So I went to Best Buy and got the most like insane iPad I could find. A terabyte of storage, like the biggest screen size, and I used that scholarship money to get that iPad, and that iPad is now my like creative tool that I use for everything, and it's pretty much paid itself off like 10 times now. But I got that, and then I started drawing on the iPad, creating things on the iPad when I was in college, and that set me up for success now because I am a whiz when it comes to like creating things digitally. So that's kind of my college background. From there, do you want to just jump into like the path forward from there?
Yeah, we can do that.
Perfect.
We'll
Okay.
move around.
Okay, cool. Because I figured you're gonna ask me about my story.
Yeah.
So after college, I went and So let me back up. So I always say that moment by myself in my house was the first time that I kind of chose myself actively. And I continue to choose myself in all these little moments. So the next part of that was, okay, so my parents were pissed.
I was gonna ask, how was that?
My parents were pissed.
Yeah.
They didn't talk to me for 2 weeks because they were so mad. Because think about it, this is first semester senior year.
Yeah.
So like I'm a year away from 2 semesters away from graduating, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, in their minds, they don't know what that means. They don't know what withdraw means. They don't know like what is taking out like one of your majors mean, because I was double majoring. To them, in their mind, they're thinking the worst, right?
Yeah.
And that's all they know. And I think that me and my therapist have had a lot of conversations about like that's all they know. Like when they react like that, that is what they know. But you have to realize that's not the whole story.
Yeah.
That's not the truth. And so I had to take that with a grain of salt. I'm like, they'll come around. Like have a lot of faith that I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And the conversations start coming up. ¿Dónde vas a agarrar trabajo? Like, where are you gonna get a job? Like,
I think for them it's they're so used to like being on survival mode and having to be practical that anything outside of that is super scary. Absolutely. Obviously they want you to do well, so for them to hear like, and also like I can see that too, like if I told my parents like, oh, I'm gonna whatever, they would be mad because it's like you've done all this fucking work, like y para qué? Like what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I started that new role in the College of Business and just like kind of kept working on my creativity and what I needed to do. And eventually I talked to them about what my plans are. I wanted to jump into the agency world. And so I started looking for jobs in the agency world, mostly in Colorado and Denver. I ended up landing a internship at a pretty prestigious agency called Interact in Boulder, Colorado. And so there they do packaging and branding design for different foods. So it's all food based. So packaging for food. The thing is with that is that they're big on the natural food scene. So like things that end up in Whole Foods and Erewhon, all the more expensive places. And to me, it was exciting because what was the best part of that role is that I got to see a like product come from like someone's head into the world, then we make the packaging for it, and then it gets on shelf. Like I got to go to the store and see things that I was like working on in the shelf. The internship was an account and strategy internship. So an account manager in the agency world is basically someone that manages the project between the creatives, the people who are doing the work, and then the client. So my job was client relationship. So I had to make sure the client understood what they were getting, what the timeline was, like what we were doing. And then the strategy side of it, I wasn't too into it. It was basically just like, what's the strategy behind a brand that we were building? Not my favorite part of it. I was a way better account person than I was a strategy person, but I wasn't designing. Like, I wasn't making anything. And that was my way of like appeasing my parents. I'm like, okay, I'm getting paid really well right now. I'm doing something that is pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not being creative.
Yeah.
And that was okay with me because I wanted to like kind of get the ropes, like, you know, figure out what does it take to actually like manage a client, ask for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because this was not like we were working with budgets anywhere from $50,000 to the biggest budget I touched was $750,000.
Oh my gosh.
But that was a lot of art. That was 52 pieces of work
Yeah.
that the agency was doing. And I think that once my parents started realizing like, oh, creativity is a pretty profitable business industry, they started to come around. And it wasn't until 2 years into, so I went from an intern to a account coordinator to an account manager. So I got promoted 3 times while I was there.
Oh, nice.
Too. So I was
you were doing well. Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
a people person, you know, like I'm
you
a charmer.
definitely.
I like talking to people. I like understanding why we're here or like what a project is meant to be.
Yeah.
And I like making sure that clients are happy. Like at the end of the day, that's what your job is, to make sure they're happy. And so it wasn't until 2 years after I got my job that I took my mom out to dinner, and she was like, you know, I'm starting to realize this could be something. Like, you could be doing something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, thanks.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're like,
thank you so much.
Finally. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I worked there for 2.5 years, and then I got furloughed because of the pandemic. But at the same time, so before work and after work, I would be working with my own clients. So I would be using my design skills to help smaller nonprofits. My first ever client role, like independently, like something I did, was I rebranded the Latino Community Foundation of Colorado.
Oh yeah,
the LCFC.
I remember that. Yes.
And so they were like my first. I thought it was a big deal. Like, I shouldn't minimize it. It was a huge deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Like a nonprofit that handles like $2.5 million worth of money every year.
Yeah.
Was asking me to like remake their logo, and that was another full circle moment. The executive director of that organization lent me a jacket for my Harvard interview.
Oh my gosh.
In high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love when things just like come full circle. You know, the string theory of like everything's just kind of connected, and I just love like when it just connects. Like,
Absolutely.
I love that so much.
Yeah. So that was like a big deal for me. And so then when I got furloughed, I was pretty much like already taking on clients. And so I decided it was a moment that like the world was kind of getting shaken up. So I decided that I wanted to shake up my life too.
Yeah.
And so I got furloughed. I didn't push back. I just said, okay, let me know if you need me again. And then I just took on my own clients and started working full time on creating an agency that helped specifically queer-owned, women-owned, and POC-owned organizations.
Yeah, yes.
I loved that job, but it was hard to kind of continue because I didn't know who I was helping. I was pretty much making packaging for bougie white people.
Yeah.
You know?
Like,
and that's okay. Like, there's a market for that. There's a reason it's a $3 billion industry.
yeah, of course.
But could my mom or my dad approach that?
Yeah.
Things? Could I even
buy
exactly.
those things and approach those things?
And so I decided that so going back to the choosing ourselves, that was the next moment where I decided to choose myself. So I was like, okay, we got great experience. At that job, I learned how to write a contract. I learned how to manage relationships. I learned what appropriate pricing is for the creative industry. And I had some awesome mentors that I still talk to today. And so when I got furloughed, I was like, you know, whatever, like, let's just do something for ourselves. And I pretty much worked in the nonprofit sector for a couple years doing that here and there. It was mostly graphic design and logo design. Excuse me. And then it wasn't a year after till I started selling my own like prints and posters and things like that. And it started off pretty slow, but then it all kind of grows and grows like that. And then eventually I didn't like doing logos anymore because you're only limited to certain ideas when it comes to other people's work. So in the meantime, it's funny, right? Like I went from managing relationships to managing relationships with like logo clients. And then the next part of choosing myself was saying that, no, I want to create illustrations and draw things because I have something bigger to say. And so I don't do any logos or any kind of graphic design, like reports and things like that. I only do illustration design. And that has been super fruitful. I've gotten to work with Nestle. I've gotten to work with DoorDash. I've gotten to work with New Belgium Brewing. There's some other clients on deck right now that I can't talk about right now, but there's some. I'm working on a couple Pride campaigns for some big companies as well, which I'm excited about. And yeah, it's been nothing but great things. I'm financially stable.
Yes.
I mean, I don't mind sharing it because it's like, I think it's important for us to say, but I made over $100,000 last year.
Yeah, too. That's awesome. No, and I've seen that you like do the price breakdowns, and I love that you do it and that you're so transparent, because it shows that there is money to be made within not only like being a creative, but also being within your purpose, is showing up authentically as yourself and within all your different identities, because that's why I truly love your art too, is because you can literally see that it's coming from you, from your heart, and from the things that you represent, which is, I truly believe that that's where you are going to be successful, is when you show up in your purpose and wholeheartedly as who you are. So it makes me so happy to see that, and that you put it so front and center, saying this is who I am, this is what I bring to the table, and I'm going to be like unashamed of any of it, because a lot, like you said, a lot of our identities aren't things that are celebrated. Growing up undocumented, we grow up being told, no digas nada, no, don't say that you're not from here. It's like a shameful thing, like debería, like da vergüenza, or like you're lacking something, not having papers. And I grew up with that too. And when you talk about coming out, I remember me coming out, whatever. I remember how scary that was, because my whole life I grew up being told by my parents, like, no digas que no eres de aquí, tú di que eres de aquí, like say you're American, say you're from here, tú no digas que no tienes papeles, que no tienes esto, porque like people are going to treat you differently or whatever. And it wasn't until college that I fully was like, I don't have papers, and I told it to the world, and it was very, very,
and I'm proud.
And it was very scary, because again, a lot of people at that time, and even now, are very uneducated, or like lack the knowledge of what it really is to be undocumented, and the complexities within it, and the system, and the laws. And I can't, like, people are like, well, why don't you just apply? And I'm like, you know, like, it's so frustrating because people don't understand like what it is.
Yeah, I don't get excited about anything in the news anymore.
Yeah, me
when
either.
When it comes to DACA, because I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, yeah.
And my mom just got her green card. Actually,
I saw that. Yes.
It's now 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
And she's like, it's you're next. You're next. I'm like, girl, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, I'm more excited that she got it, because she's the one who needs to go see her family and stuff. I'm okay. I obviously want to see my family in Mexico dearly.
Yeah,
they come a lot over here too, but I don't need it as much as she might need it, right?
That's exactly, that's how I say too. Yeah. Like, yo siempre digo, a mí no me falta nada. Thankfully, I'm love the life that I live here. Yeah. I'm living comfortable. I'm very privileged. Having DACA has opened so many doors, and as long as I have DACA, I feel safe and I feel okay. So, you know.
Right.
But yeah.
Back to your other point, I will say, like, it's so interesting. I learned in college and in high school that not everyone is as open as we are.
No, not at all.
And I think one of my big motivators is not just with being undocumented, but being queer, being a POC, being all these things, is that someone out there needs to hear
this. 110%.
Someone out there needs to understand that it's going to be okay. At the minimum, that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But also that you can thrive and succeed.
It is interesting that you say that, because even just on I was just on TikTok Live the other day, and even like this girl was like, no, like, keep making podcasts, and I love watching you because I don't have papers too, and it just makes me feel more seen, and seeing you, like, I mean, quote unquote successful, like, she's like, I'm like, I never even thought of that. Like, there's other people that see themselves within me, and that's why they want to follow and watch,
I think also for you, especially like, empowering women,
Yeah.
because first of all, not every woman empowers other women.
Yeah.
But also just to see you out there fighting the haters back and everything.
Oh my
That's
God.
my favorite.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're doing a lot of awesome things. I just want to put that out
Oh,
there, especially
thank you.
because I saw your last podcast and it made me sad.
Oh yeah,
But
it's hard, and it can be very discouraging. I think you've talked about it before too, just how discouraging it can be too, especially like even for you making that jump from working in that like stable job with that stable income that was quote unquote successful to becoming a full-time creator. I'm sure it definitely had its struggles.
Yeah, I will say that like I think what I'm realizing every day is that what we know to be successful, first of all, is like a moving target.
Yeah.
And that a lot of times, especially as immigrants, we are taught like there's one story of success, right? And one story of a path forward. And a lot of times we don't know what we don't know, what we can't see, and what we've maybe never been, or other people around us have never been. And so that's why I think, not only for me, but also for you, our paths are so unique and no one else is doing them in that fashion, that a map will never be laid out for us. We're kind of making that for ourselves, right? Making that map for other people. And I think that, so one thing I like to say is that I will never ask someone for directions to a place they've never been.
Yes.
And I think I have to take that to heart, because a lot of people, as we see, love to have opinions on what you should be doing. Our parents, random people online, our siblings, our friends, right? And they don't know what it takes to do this.
Yeah.
Like I've lost friends because of doing my own thing, because it requires a certain mindset. I work a lot on the weekends. I work a lot, period, right?
Yeah.
Because I say that it's kind of funny. I went from working a 9 to 5 to working a 24/7.
Yes.
And it's true. It's sad, but it's true, because like I never stopped creating in my head. Like I'm always thinking new ideas,
of course.
whether it's an illustration or a video idea or a product idea, right? It's not going to stop. And that's just who I am.
Yeah.
Right? You either get on and you're on board with it.
Yeah, of course.
Or you're not, in a way, And I think that scares people too. A lot of times, because when you're independent and you're like making your own thing, a lot of people, I think it kind of pushes something on people that can't do it, or not that can't do it, but don't want to take the leap.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of discomfort in the unknown, of course, and people like to have control and know what's gonna happen and what it's gonna look like. And so when you just take that leap of faith or say, hey, I'm gonna go do something different, everyone's like, wait, like it's a trigger, like wait, like what, how, when, what, like how is it gonna work? And you get all these questions, and it's just like you have to believe within yourself that this is your purpose and what you're meant to do. And yes, of course, there is a lot of people that are going to be questioning everything you do, like especially when it comes to your parents. Like I relate to you so heavily on that, because for my parents, it's always about being practical and like, is this realistic, is this actually sustainable? And it's like, I don't fucking know, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna figure it out.
I have there's this a local creative that I follow too. He has this saying. It's like, always be kind of like chasing the fog. Yeah. Like I can only see a couple steps in front of me, but that's as much faith as I'm gonna have. Right? Yeah. The rest is kind of this fog where I'm gonna take a couple steps this way. Okay, maybe that didn't work out, but I'm gonna go a little bit this way, and that path leads a little bit longer. And I think kind of going back to your kind of question about like if I had any challenges of doing it, of like going from something stable to something myself, kind of my own business, is that I think there were, but I think that the biggest one, especially anyone listening who kind of wants to start their own thing or has a 9 to 5 right now but wants to be their own boss, is it's all mindset. You have to have the biggest faith ever. Like I think entrepreneurs and business owners, especially people that didn't grow up with money, you kind of have to have solid faith that you have to believe in yourself, because a lot of times you might be the only person that believes in yourself. And you have to know that there's going to be downs and there's going to be big ups too at the same time, For me, that mindset shift didn't come until recently.
Yeah.
Because I think growing up low income, immigrant, right, undocumented, there's a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
At every turn, there's a scarcity mindset. And once I started to, I don't think I don't think it's ever gonna go away. You kind of learn how to manage it and how to control it and how to live with it, right? It's this little guy, this little creature that's always living with you. It's saying, I don't know about that. Maybe you should stick to the secure thing, right? And I think you just need to learn how to manage that and learn like where to pivot, where to go, in what direction. I'll give you an example. This year, retail is down just completely.
Yeah.
And that means that people aren't buying as many things. So I have to kind of scale back products and I have to jump on client work more.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love client work. Don't get me wrong. I love working with people. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of putting my vision into someone else's ideas versus just complete creative control of my own products and my things, right? And so it's okay. It pays the bills. It's something you kind of have to pivot. And I know that come June, come Pride, come Latinx Heritage Month, I'll have more of an incentive to create things because people are buying in the summer. Yeah. People buy it for the holidays, right? So you just kind of tough
like
out
even even these few like every like the start of the year is always just a slow period for everybody. Even me working within the restaurant industry, we always say like once April around that time starts to pick up, once the days get warmer, summer starts coming in, things start to flow a little more. But it is hard. Have you ever had a moment where you were just like, this is not for me, or have you just known this is?
So I always think, kind of going back to like, I want my role, my job to be creative. Where that kind of manifests itself, that's where I think I'm like,
yeah.
So I'll give you an example. I painted one mural, and then I said, never again. This is not for me.
I think
this
I remember
is way
that.
too much work for not that much pay.
Yeah.
I can be making the same amount of money, more or less, at my home office.
Yeah.
A project for someone else. And so that's when I decided, like, this isn't for me. And I think you kind of have to be, if you're a creative, it's good to try a lot of things because you understand what you like to do and what you're good at. And that can come in all forms. Writing, like, where are you going to write? Filmmaking, are you going to make short films, long films, long form? And for me, I've decided that I want to do digital illustration.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean I can't do murals per se, because you can always do a vinyl wrap on a wall. And a lot of clients have started to do that. So I'll get commissioned for murals, but I don't have to paint them. I just have to design them and vectorize them, which means you can like scale them really big.
Yeah.
And then another company will put it on the wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not hard to figure out what like you like to do.
Yeah.
Like following that and getting a little bit better at that is where you're gonna like find success. That doesn't mean you have to be like a one-trick pony per se and just do one thing, but keep exploring those different avenues, and eventually you'll find a couple things that you really love.
Yeah. How do you go about getting clients or finding clients? How is that process?
So it comes in a couple different ways. The biggest way is referrals. So I'll do work for one client and they'll talk about me to other people and so on. It's been really interesting to me to see that sometimes I'll get an inquiry from a client and they say, we have this project and your name came up in the discussion. And I'm like, okay, like, does anyone there know me? How did my name come up? I always want to know, because if you can find a channel that you're really successful in, you can just do that. But sometimes you don't even know. Yeah. And it's kind of mystical the way the universe works, because I kind of posted yesterday that, like, on my story that I'm so grateful for what I don't even know is happening.
Yes, you know what I mean? Yeah, like when people are mentioning rooms that you're not even in.
Yeah, I've never walked into a room that someone's sucking it, and yet my name is in there.
Yeah.
So but social media has a lot to do with it as well. For the DoorDash project, I asked, like, how did you find me? Because they were looking for Latino designers specifically. And like, we just typed in Latinx illustrators on TikTok, and you were the second thing that came up.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I was like, okay. It is working, because sometimes you think, you're like, why do you do social media, right? Because sometimes you're like, am I just shouting out into the void?
Yes, and that's what it feels like sometimes. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, is anyone listening?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to realize that a lot of people just lurk and like just see what you're doing. And when the opportunity strikes, it's I think social media and any kind of marketing is not necessarily about selling your services. It's we want to make sure you're top of mind when something does come up. So when someone like if a silent follower is following you on Instagram and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, they would be perfect for this, that's when you're the real, like that's when your effort kind of manifests itself. But social media is a big place where I get a lot of inquiries. The thing about inquiries in client work is that one, I don't think people really know what it costs to get creative work done. On the level, like at my level, it is a little bit more expensive, and I don't mind saying that because that's the reality of it.
Yes.
And two, sometimes people aren't serious.
Yeah.
I think that I like your podcast because I don't have to be as professional as some other podcasts.
Yeah, of course.
But,
no, we're chilling here.
Good, because a lot of men come into my DMs and they're like, "Hey, like I want a logo or an illustration done. I was curious, like what you would charge." And then I tell them how much I'm going to charge, and then they're going to be like, "Well, I kind of just wanted to help you out, and like I didn't think it was going to be that expensive. Can you hook it up since I'm kind of helping you?"
Oh.
And I'm like, girl, you're helping me?
Yeah. How?
Wow.
By devaluing my work?
Exactly.
Like, how are you helping me?
Exactly. And so I think that there is, and it's not just men, it's all kinds of folks that, do that a lot. And it's just interesting to me because I'm very professional, like, thank you, but unfortunately I'm just not going to be able to do this and take this on. And then there are some people who are like super nice, who are like, hey, like, I don't have a big budget, but I'm willing to, like, I want to work with you. This is what I'm doing. Usually it's a great cause, Usually it's a really cool project that is helping people. And I'm willing to, not even sacrifice, but, give them the service.
To, like, work with them.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of things. You can charge for rounds of revision, licensing fees for an illustration.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to, like, let go a little bit of that because I know that these people are amazing. They're going to do good things with it, right? So it's a give and take. Also, what I charge a small business is going to be different from a major Fortune 500 company, right?
Of course.
And so a lot of potential clients come through Instagram, and I always say, if you're serious, you're going to email me, right? Or you're going to go to my website, you're going to open up the little contact form, and you're going to be like, this is my project.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you're someone who's looking for creative work, a lot of what I get is sometimes I'm like, okay, I would love to know more about your project, what you're thinking about. Do you have any design inspiration? And they're like, well, I thought you're the creative, like you're the designer, you're supposed to come up with it. I'm like, yes, I am. That's why you're paying me. But you kind of have to have a sense of what you want.
Like a vision.
What's the point, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times people are like, I don't have anything. You just do it. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to do it. And then you can't complain when I give you something that you're going to, you just said, go for it, right? So that's why it's important to have, so I have like a questionnaire. I do a kickoff call with the client to make sure that we're on the same page, like what they need. What is it going to go on? Like, is this like a truck wrap? Is this a sign? Is this an event poster, right? Where is it going to land on? Because that's huge. But most of the time, if people get to the email part and then they get to like talking to me, like we'll just have a quick like client chat. They're pretty much onboarded because they're serious. This time of year, a lot of event posters for the summer, like music stuff, a lot of merchandise design, and then a lot of pride campaigns. Too. So it's exciting.
It's so interesting to see and to hear you talk because you can definitely see your accounting and your marketing and your like that expertise that you have within it. And I love that. It's a good background to have because it is hard when you are creative. For me, numbers and all of that stuff has just never been my thing. And so I love that you have that background and that you know what your art is worth, because I think a lot of people don't understand like the effort and the time and the create, like people don't often value creativity as much as they place value into other things. And I was just talking to my friend Victoria when we were at the art walk the other day. We saw your art, which I was so excited. I just love seeing like my friends and like their art wherever, but I would see a painting and that shit was $500 and I'm like, oh my god, it's so cute. But I'm like, and I can't afford it. You know, like I don't have the money to pay, but who am I to tell someone that their art is not worth those $500? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of creatives do get that, like, why are you charging so much? Like, you know, but it's like, no, I'm charging you for a service that I am providing, that I am skilled at.
Yep. I think that right now, I think especially with the rise of AI, there's a huge devaluation of art. Like people less and less are kind of understanding how much that, like, what's the cost of creativity. This year specifically, I've had to kind of, I don't know, fight for my budget and my rights, my how much I'm charging, even more than last year.
Yes.
And it's been it's a little scary, but at the same time, I'm like pretty staunch about like what I charge.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to knowing like what you're worth, because I lost my train of thought. It's because some people will try to just like barter with you.
Yeah.
And like say like, oh, like all these things, and they'll try to confuse you in a way. And I'm like pretty much in lockstep with like what I have to charge. And then they'll call you like hard to work with.
Yeah.
Right? And if you notice, the people that get called hard to work with have darker skin, are queer, or are creatives.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that a lot. And most of the time, if you're hard to work with, you're probably doing something right.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, most definitely.
Because you know what you're worth. There was another point that I was going to make. Back to kind of the business background. One thing that I've noticed is that my business degree helps me so much.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of said it at the beginning. I was like, at the end of the day, that was the best decision I could do, because I have a lot of friends who got art degrees or graphic design degrees.
Yeah.
And they're doing well, but they could be doing much more if they knew, like, you know, how to write a contract, what a scope of work is, how much to charge.
And I mean, those client relations too.
And that client relationship is huge. It is huge. A lot of times creatives can be some of the most like introverted people that you meet.
Yes.
And very shy and like, I just want to do my art. And it's tough because when you're out there at a market, let's just say like, you know, an art market, you want to talk to people. You want to know why they're there, like what they like, you know, who you are.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm at a market, I say, hi, my name is Brian. I'm a freelance illustrator here in Denver. I primarily help queer-owned, women-owned, and POC-owned orgs across the U.S. And when I'm not doing that, I get to turn my personal artwork into all these beautiful products that you see here as a way to connect with my Mexican heritage, my queer identity, and my immigrant identity.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yes.
And some artists just are not like that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's partially one of the reasons I've found success is because I'm a people person.
Yes.
And I want to connect with people, and I'm not just there to make a coin. That's just kind of like the byproduct. The effect of it.
Of course.
And people love that. People can see themselves and their background in like my work and what I do.
Yeah, I love that. And okay, we're gonna run it back to you said that you've been creative since you were young. Has it always been, or have you always done the same kind of art that you're doing now, or how did that shift? Because now you're very much talking about your different identities, and that's the kind of art that you're doing.
Yeah.
Has that always been what you were into, or has it just been different mediums? Or
so I would say that no. When I was really little, I used to do a lot of like cartoon art. You know, how we all start, you know, drawing SpongeBob and Spider-Man and stuff like that. I remember in fourth grade, I won a DPS art contest, and I got 2 tickets to Elitch's.
Oh, I love that.
But that was like a safety calendar that the district was doing, whatever. But I only recently got into like identity-based art because I needed to use it as a way to explore my own identity.
Yeah, yes.
One of the biggest reasons that I make so much Mexico-related things is because I can't go to Mexico, right? And to me, connecting with my heritage and culture outside of going to it is researching, reading, watching documentaries and things like that to learn more about the places that I can visit. And that's primarily why I make so much Mexico-related things, is to learn more about my culture. And then the identity work is, number one, just to tell myself that it's going to be okay. And that I am an important voice. And also to show other people that their voice is important and their identity matters. And that they're not alone. I do think that sometimes it can get really heavy
Yes.
because there's a lot of really bad things going on in the world. I mean, outside of that, there's so many bad things happening in the United States.
Yeah, yeah.
And I find that the persecution of queer people is probably the biggest one of the many problems in this country. And so that can get really, like, you can get into a really bad headspace when it comes to that. And so I always try to stay positive when it comes to why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
The subject matter might be a little dark and heavy, but at the end of the day, I know that I'm putting it out because I want other people to understand who we are and what's happening right now. But no, the identity-based stuff is really new to me.
Yeah.
I think that, like, part of it was that, so one of the things that I see everywhere in the art and creative industry is that you don't want to get political.
Yeah.
You don't want to get political because
Uh-huh.
agencies don't want to hire
Yeah.
someone. Companies, big corporations don't want to hire someone who's political, right? And recently what I've gotten into is I get so angry when I hear that. Like, even my own I had a creative coach back in 2020, and he was like, you don't want to get political, you don't want to get religious. And that really bugged me because how can I not be political when my every part of me is political,
when
right?
yes.
My immigration status is a political statement. My relationship and sexuality is a political statement, right? You know, so many people in the U.S. are disabled. That's a political thing. And how could I not, like, be political when it's every facet of my being?
Yeah, it's like everything about me is political or politicized.
Yes.
So how can I ignore it like it's not there? And that's a lot of people want you to do that. They don't want to. No. They don't want to hear the queer kid sharing his experiences. You know, they want to act like it's peachy and creams and everything's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And that's if that's your thing, like, so many artists make art about nature, right?
Yeah.
Or fantasy and things like that. That's awesome. Do you? Me, I want to make a statement with my artwork, and art is inherently political.
It is.
And I think that it's so funny that so many of these people are saying don't get political when, do you know who Shepard Fairey is?
No.
Obey.
Oh, yeah.
So Obey, Shepard Fairey, started as a graffiti artist. He's also a white man.
Yeah.
And he has political statements all over his art. And it's so funny. We tell black and brown creatives not to be political, and yet white creatives can be political.
Yeah. And then that's radical, and that's celebrated.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
so radical.
yes.
Like,
so brave.
Yeah, put the Obey giant all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Look at, like, Banksy. Do you know who Banksy is?
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know whether he's white or not, but I don't know why. I have a feeling he's white, but that's a whole...
Yeah.
Right, because he can get away with it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about our kind of statements. It goes back to, like, Colin Kaepernick and all these things, right? You tell black and brown people and queer people how they can protest or not protest, right?
Yes.
I don't want to bother people, but I want to make people uncomfortable. And I want to start a conversation around what it means to be queer in the U.S., in the contemporary U.S., and what it means to be an immigrant in the U.S., right?
Yeah. And it's necessary. And, you know, I think both you and I have kind of strayed away from this because we used to protest and go crazy and scream until our lungs turn purple about why we deserve basic human rights. And I have strayed away from that because I think we can both agree that a lot of our life we try to be the example and be over the top and the A student and involved in every student org and doing the absolute most just to prove you being worthy of, like, for me it was like me being worthy of going to school. I had to be in all these orgs and do all these interviews and do all these protests just to kind of prove myself. And I'm no longer at that point, but I'm gonna continue to use, whether it's the podcast or whatever I'm doing, to still advocate for who I am and what I stand for. And a lot of people have told me the same thing, like, don't get political, don't get into this thing, like these things, don't talk about this. And I'm like, then that's not who I am. That's not me, and that's not authentic to who I am. And I'd rather speak my truth and make people uncomfortable than be silent and make them comfortable.
Oh, yeah. Big time steps to that. I think it's also, like, I guess for us, there's an inherent risk with going out to the streets and protesting.
Yes,
right?
most
And
definitely.
I don't think it's an excuse by any means, right?
No,
but
of
like
course.
there is, right? Undocumented people have more of a risk when police hurt them.
Yes, of course.
And to me, since I can't be on the streets per se,
yes.
I put it in my art.
Exactly.
I put it in what I say, the videos that I create, right? Protest means different things to different people,
Yes.
and there's multiple levels of protesting
Yes.
too. Do I think that sometimes people just post a picture and then call it a day, right? I think that there's a lot of things we could do. I try to put my money where my mouth is
Yes,
because I
yes.
donate to most of the causes that I am like
Yeah,
representing,
yes.
right? Or sometimes I'll say this sticker is like we'll donate 100%
Yes,
of all this
I
stickers.
have seen you do
Yeah.
that multiple times.
I try to do that because for the most part, I think that like, right, that scarcity mindset comes in like, no, you're like losing all this money. Like when in reality, what a lot of people do is like, let's say I put a sticker as a fundraiser, they'll buy something else too. Not
Yes.
just that, right? Most people are pretty good about that too. So I think a creative, especially like someone who's listening to this, you think like, for me, I thought like, if I'm going to make a product, I have to donate to something, right? Or people won't buy it. That's not true. It's good that maybe you have a model where you can donate some of that money
Yeah.
to something you have, but it's not true. You don't have to donate right away. Like, I think that we never get to be selfish.
Yes.
Right? And eventually, once you're kind of up and running and stuff, you can start putting like a fundraiser together and things like that. But I think we're so taught to put everyone else before us that we never get to focus on us. And so that's what I would tell you if you're looking to start like a creative practice or a product, is don't feel like you need to donate right away. Like you can get there as well. But yeah, you should be putting your money where your mouth is as well.
Most definitely. Has it ever been like scary for you to like it? I mean, for me, I wouldn't say scary, but I don't know. Putting yourself out there especially when emotions are tied to it can get pretty heavy, like you said. Has that been a thing for you at all?
Not necessarily. I will say that I have a lot of privilege in being a man and being pretty white passing.
Yeah,
you know? That I've never, even at pop-ups, like at markets, I've never had an issue.
You've never had any kind of pushback?
Yeah, I've never
That's
had any
awesome.
pushback. I also
Good.
think that it's Denver, at least in
Yeah.
the city. People are so nice. And even like sometimes when we had a store in Five Points, there was some folks, because it's a big touristy area, there was some folks who had like Blue Lives Matter stuff on that came in. And you know, there's Abolish ICE and No One Is Lost on Land on all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh. And my sister was working, and I was like, I didn't think this one through. Like, Kenya's working, she's tiny, she can defend herself, but she's tiny. And then these guys come in, but they were the ones who were like, they bought a Abolish ICE shirt too. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'm, what is going? First of all, I was like, what is going on? But second of all, like, most people are okay, and even if they're not okay with it, they'll just not say anything and just not interact. But no, I've never had an issue. It's more online. I get a lot of like, especially when I post about like queer things, there's a lot of people who put some really hurtful comments. But Instagram does a pretty good job of like filtering it out too, so I rarely see it. And when I do see it, I love to clap back. It's my favorite thing ever. But again, there's a lot of privilege because I'm a man. And,
that's true. I'm like, I guess I get that. I fucking get it. I get it all the time. But I remember even at CSU, like when I came out as undocumented, I had so much backlash. Like even like people were like wanting me to get like expelled from the school. Like I remember there was like news articles and stuff, and I remember like Ishawada and like the different professors were like, do not look at the comments, because I was getting freaking death threats. Like people were telling me that my parents were abusing me for having brought me here because they knew I was going to be in a position where I was undocumented. Like I have been through the ringer with the comments and with the hate, but
it's terrible. First of all, it's terrible. But I think there is a difference between with everything, how women are treated and men are treated. Because even like you bring up something, you were saying how I do post my like income breakdowns every month. And I have friends who are doing much bigger numbers than me and like who are way more successful that are women who will post that, and then men will be like, that's not true. You can't make that much. Like, I don't know how you're doing that. You're lying. You can't make that much money. And I'm like, everyone in my comments are like, oh my goodness, King,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
get your bag and all these
That's
things.
so true.
It's so
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
But I'm sorry you had to go through that.
I mean, I think it's all part of it.
Mhm,
You know what I
mhm.
mean? And I think part of like the backlash and stuff that I get kind of motivates me to continue because I'm triggering people
Yes.
for whatever
Oh, yeah.
reason, and there's a bigger purpose. And
Yes.
I've always said this, like I just feel like even if I'm just helping one person by even just showing up, because like that girl on TikTok told me, like, I just like to watch you because I feel less alone. Like if I can do that just for one person, the comments are way worth it.
Yep.
And I think you have a story that's worth telling, and I have a story that's worth telling. Like I've obviously haven't had all these privileges, and so I hated that I didn't have papers, and obviously I still am not a fan that I can't travel outside the country. I fucking wish I could, but I think that the universe handed me these cards because I'm meant to do something with them, and I want to continue to show up and show other people who are undocumented or who are underrepresented that it's okay. And it's, I mean, it's not always the safest, but it is okay for you to show up authentically, and that there is a community of people that will support you and that see themselves in you. And that's why I love the work that you do, and I love that. And even in your intros and in everything that you speak about, you're very unapologetic about who you are, and you stand very firm on, this is who I am and this is who I'm catering to, this is my audience. And I absolutely love that, and I see myself a lot in the work that you do, and you have beautiful fucking art. Oh my god, I love it. But it speaks volumes. And I'm genuinely, like I said, so proud of you and the work that you're doing. Like, you are literally amazing. And it makes me so happy to see you just like living within your truth, and seeing that you've taken these different identities of yourself and made so much art out of them. I'm telling you, when I was not expecting to see your tote, and I was just so excited. I was like, that's my friend, that's someone I know. And I literally cannot wait to see the amazing things you do, because I know you, it's just, you're just getting started, and I can't wait to see you when fucking Univision, or I don't even know where you're gonna end up, but knowing who you are and the way that you show up, you're gonna do amazing things. I really
appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's a blessing to be able to be in the position that I am. Yeah. I don't take it for granted any day, especially when you like remember that like your parents are cleaning toilets and building houses and out in the sun all day. It really puts you in your place. It motivates me to work like really hard as I can, and I think that's partially why I've had so much success, is because I'm to go back to your point, without seeing those identities, you wouldn't be able to see me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly. And I think for me, it's being undocumented has really been a big motivator for me, because I understand what it's like to not have like a work permit, and not have, like, I know what my life could look like had I not moved here, or had I not gone to university. Like the types of jobs that we're confined to, with whether it's construction, working in the food industry, stuff like that,
anything under the table.
Anything under the table. And so I don't take things lightly, and I don't take it for granted that I have the privilege of being able to create something for myself that's outside of what the norm is. And I love that you're doing it, but I want other people to see that it is possible to be a creative and still be like, to be undocumented, or to do whatever you want to do. That it's not a limit, but something that should like propel you forward. And it's definitely been what like has propelled me. Part of it obviously has been that little like people pleasing thing, where I'm like, I want to prove that like I'm, but still, like, it's been such a part of my life that it's inevitable for me to speak on it and speak about my experiences as someone who is undocumented. And even now, just like knowing, like, the unique experience of being an adult, and navigating that, not having access to certain government benefits or being able to travel outside of the United States. Like, you know, I'll have friends planning to go to Colombia, and I'm over here like, have fun, bring me back a shot glass.
Well,
like,
at least you go to Puerto Rico a lot.
I eventually I think I might just have to move there at this point. I just feel like that's where my heart's at.
I mean, to be honest too, you have a lot of experience in the food industry, so you could start something, like, you know, but you know, that's neither here nor there. But I was gonna say that one thing I didn't touch on is one of the reasons that I started my own business is because as undocumented people, so much of our life is controlled by other people. So much of those decisions we can't make. And having my own business really has given me a sense of control back in my own life.
I think that's the best thing that anyone who is undocumented can do, because otherwise you're going to be confined to whatever minimum wage and whatever people say your work is worth. And that's why I always encourage, not that I even have my own business, but eventually hope to. But I think that's the best thing that anyone who is undocumented can do, because then you can be your own contractor, and you don't even have to have DACA to, you know what I mean?
You don't, no.
Which, I had one girl asking me, like, I really want to go to school and I want to become a CNA, but I don't have papers. And I'm like, okay, then why would you do that? Find what you're truly passionate about and build a business where you can charge what you want and be your own boss, and then the possibilities are endless. You know, like, don't get down on yourself for not being able to work as a CNA or not having a social security number. There's so many ways out there, and I appreciate that. I guess I don't even know if appreciate's the right word, but like, you have to figure it out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it forces you to, like...
It's like a two-sided coin. That's the best part. And the worst part is you have to figure it out. Like, you get to figure it out in your way, in your style. And you have to have a lot of faith that it's going to work out. It's going to work out if you put effort into it and you're consistent about it. I think a lot of people ask me, like... I think a lot of people assume that because I'm so creative is why I'm successful. No. Consistency beats creativity's ass any single day. Yes. It's the whole talent or hard work. Like, I think success is talent plus hard work plus luck. You know?
Yeah.
I think it's like a lot of things combined. So just because there's like art is a great example. There's a ton of artists who are so good, but just don't want to put the work in. You know, or have other people to put the work in.
Or you have to like. That's the other, like, consistently show up, because I think a lot of times it's hard as a creative, especially if you're starting out, when you're putting so much work into something and then you get no views or you make no money. And that's one thing I've had to learn. It's that your art and whatever your craft is still valuable and worthy, even if there's not a dollar sign behind it. Like, there's still value. Absolutely. And that's the other thing, like you said, it comes from consistently work and luck, and it's just a matter of being prepared for when those opportunities do come. I saw this thing the other day. It was like it's like, who started thinking about what kind of person you're going to be when the opportunity comes. That really hit me, because I think we focus so much on like the next thing, right? And that takes away from our personal journey of like whatever, you know, at the very core of it, like what kind of person are you becoming, you know? But some people forget about like what kind of person you're going to be when the opportunity does show up. Versus like acting on the opportunity when it comes. So this might be a good time to actually share with you that I brought you a gift. Me? Real quick, Oh my God, you're so cute. You know, when like years ago you gave me stickers, and they're still very much on my hydro that I use every day at the gym, and I love seeing them because I love you and I love your art, and they're still very much on there.
That also speaks to high quality.
Quality, really good quality. Like, literally, go check out his work. It's literally amazing. You have such good work.
So, thank you. So I know you like you're very into spirituality and divine protection. So I got you one of our divinely protected totes.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. You're so sweet. Yeah, look. Y'all, I'm telling you, he's also, that's the other thing why I love your art too, is you're very spiritual too with it.
I try. Thank you.
I literally complimented his necklace when he
Oh, yeah,
came in
my
because
evil eye
it's an
necklace.
evil eye. Thank you so much.
Of
This is so
course.
cute.
Yeah.
You know I have divinely protected tattooed on me.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it's so it's the butterflies that I have right here. I have divinely protected and then the butterflies because you know migration.
Yeah.
So thank
Small
you.
world.
Thank you.
Yeah,
But yeah,
of course.
literally very high quality.
Yeah. Everything.
Products.
Most
It's
everything
literally-
is printed here in Denver. So.
So
Yeah,
you're
try to get
supporting really good artists, amazing cause, and it's really, really cute stuff. Thank you, friend. I
Yeah,
really, really
Of course,
appreciate you.
Of course.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Oh, and then you know I love my neutrals. I'm like you see,
It's so aesthetic with
it
your
really
couch
is.
and stuff.
I love it. I might just have to have it like as my little background.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I would just love.
I also have I have a print of it as well.
Yeah,
like
I
11
just
by
would
14.
love to. That's my goal. Like now, I have my Frida everywhere, but I want to start getting my friends' art in here and
that'd be-
just like
Maybe
just
have a
surrounding.
nice little- oh, you have some stuff up here too.
So this was actually my goal was to just fill this wall with just art. It was gonna be all different Frida Kahlo, but now that I just I was at the art walk and I ran into my friend Tito, who is also an artist, and I saw his art, and I'm just like, I just want to surround myself with art and the people that motivate me, and just like be in those spaces where I just feel like understood. You know what I
Absolutely,
mean?
yeah.
And I feel like maybe that's another reason that you don't receive that much pushback, is that you go to places where you know you're accepted and celebrated.
That's a huge part of my strategy. Is I know my audience now to my core, because I would do a lot of markets that were very just markets, right?
Yeah.
Just a general market, and I didn't do very well because my audience wasn't there. And I specifically searched for queer markets, Latinx markets, Mexico markets, things like that. They have to have some kind of cultural component, or else I won't do them.
Yes.
And that's where I find the most success.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That's the other thing is going where you're celebrated and where you're valued. Because again, like you could take this toe to someone who go to outside a Catholic church and
say,
like it's just not gonna be so it is. That's what I was talking to David earlier, is about knowing who your audience is and catering your work and what you do to that audience. And obviously there are going to be the outsiders, but you use that as a motivation to propel you forward. But if you don't go where you're valued, then you're going to feel like it's not worth it at all. Obviously, if you wouldn't go into a freaking Trump rally and go have your little pop-up, you know what I mean? Like it's just not going to work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because where I saw your ¿cómo se llama el museo? Museo.
El Museo.
Yeah, and it was literally all Latinx.
They try to
artists.
find a lot of local artists. They have a lot of things from Mexico too, and from Las Americas, because El Museo de las Americas, if you're in Denver, you should go check it out. It's free.
Really, it's really dope.
You can get a $35 membership. It's one of my favorite museums.
It's beautiful. I had never been. And
You've never been?
I had never
so
been.
cool.
So I'm telling you, it was just such a pleasant. And now I really want to just make it to every First Friday, because I just truly loved it. Just being, I'm telling you, I just love being around people that are creating, and just like I was talking to Victoria, like, if your thing is, like making like a dish or a soap holder, and that's your shit,
Own it.
You make those soap holders.
Own it.
Like I'm so for it. I love anyone that's just doing what they love, 110%, whether it's whatever it is, But I was telling her, like, it's so fun and cute to see like people's different little crafts.
It shows you that people will, like, there's an audience for a lot of, for everything.
For everything,
right?
yeah.
And I think, like, going back to, those little, I love those little salt containers some people have. Salt shakers, they have little things.
Yeah.
I love those. And some people just make that kind of stuff, and they do so well.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, like, number one, branding. Like, who are you marketing it to? It's handmade. Like, how are you making this? Things like that. And I think there's a craving right now in our society for that small batch, handmade, local support, because after the pandemic, especially when we're all
Mm-hmm.
stuck inside, everyone wanted to go out, and I think that's why these vendor markets have become so popular these days, is because we want to see what's out there too.
I think a lot of people are placing more value into like where they're putting their money now. At least I am,
Yeah.
you know, trying to be more conscious of where I'm giving my money, and like I'd rather support a smaller local artist or someone that I identify with than this large corporation that could give a
Absolutely.
shit less if I like live or die.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know what
no.
I mean?
That's huge. I think I've seen the shift too. Is people want to know where their stuff is coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to put their money where their mouth is. Like, how
Yeah.
many? I mean, CEOs are a whole different conversation, but I'm more likely to give my money to someone who identifies with me, or at least is saying something that I care about. I think, especially with Gen Z, we're seeing a trend of
Mm-hmm.
like, if you don't stand up for something, if you don't, put your money where your mouth is, then why am I going to
Yeah,
support
yeah.
you? You know?
I mean, I've seen it even within creators, like on TikTok and
Oh, yeah.
stuff. Like a lot of them, the big ones, like just crash down when they just you see that they really don't stand for
Nope.
anything, or they stand for the wrong things, because people really do want to support people that are within whatever
Yeah.
cause that they support. So that's another thing that I'm starting to really kind of figure out and hone in on, what my audience is and who I'm catering even just this podcast to. And that's why this last podcast that I made, I was so adamant about like, hey, if you're racist, transphobic, homophobic, any of that, then this podcast is not for you. I'm like, this podcast is not for you, because I have people that I love, that, and this is who I want to cater to. This is the community that I want to build. And if you can't exist within that in a loving manner, then you can see yourself out. Like, that's, I swear to fucking God, if someone comments something negative about you, I'm going to war. I'm going to war, because it's something that I'm just like, no, like these people are so fucking amazing. And I want people to see the amazing work that you do and the beautiful heart that you have. But if I have this fucking dumbass on here, or whatever dumbass comment anything hateful, we're going to war. But yeah, definitely follow him on social media. He has a really, like, his prints, everything that your posts, everything. You inspire me every day. I love seeing even like your daily life. Like, I just love everything.
Thank you, friend. I really appreciate it. I think, first of all, thank you for giving me your platform,
Of
because
course.
you have definitely, I've seen you grown in so many different ways, and I'm so proud of what you've
Thank
done.
you.
Sometimes it may not feel like you said, like anything's going on, but
Yeah.
I think those are the moments where everything is happening.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your platform with me. I'm happy to share my platform whenever I get anything started. I'm trying to, my goal is to get 5 YouTube videos batch before I release anything, because I've been on and off with YouTube.
Yeah.
But if you're a creative out there, especially a BIPOC creative or a queer creative, I would love to have you in what I call the Yams fam, which is our community on Instagram and on TikTok. I do share a lot of my personal journey and tips on artistry, not just like the art that I put out in the world. So if you're looking for more like technical things, feel free to follow me along. For those of you who are looking for some awesome art for your walls, for apparel and things like that, I have a shop as well. If you look up Yams World on Google, it's the first thing, or Brian Montez, Bryan. It should be the first thing that comes up as well. And that's the best way to support me, is to buy art directly from me. If you own a tiendita or a small shop or a bookstore across the U.S., I would love to be in your bookstore as well, if you align with the messages that we have out there, because we're trying to get into one store in all 50 states.
Nice.
That's one of my goals for the year as well.
That's awesome.
Too. But other than that, keep creating your art, keep shouting things out, and telling people who you are, because that's the way to connect with folks, and that's the way to make our world better.
Most definitely.
Thank you,
for
friend.
taking the time to come. And
Of course.
like I said, I'm always cheering you on, and cannot wait to see the
Anytime.
amazing things you do.
If you want me to come back, and
I
we'll
would
do a topic or
love,
something.
yes, I would love to have you come back, of course. And we can definitely get more technical or whatever.
Yeah.
Or have people ask questions
that'd be
too,
awesome
if they
too.
have any questions about, even getting started as a creative, or how to get your name out there, or how to start working with vendors, and
Absolutely.
all the technical stuff can
Yeah.
be very intimidating, and it seems like you've got it.
Thank you. I
going
appreciate
on,
that. I
so.
appreciate that. And thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah. But yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. A like is free. And yeah, subscribe. I was just saying 60% of the people that watch my shit aren't subscribed.
Isn't that wild? Subscribe. It's free.
Yeah, so I know. I'm like, so many people just like watch and I'm like, just
yeah. We see you lurkers.
I know, literally. We see you.